We live? Yeah, we're live. Okay. Okay, so hello. Welcome to Channel 27. If you're new, I'm Heidi. I study and practice Vedic astrology and call myself a Vedic life coach. Today we have Mike. Mike is a peace healer. He is a well-known Western astrologer and tarot reader. He's actually always dead on accurate. I've got a reading myself from him. So last time Mike and we talked about astrology, but today we're gonna talk about something a little bit different and something that most everybody wonders and questions about. So it's certainly not my expertise. I'm actually somewhat of a critic. So Mike, on your shows, you always discuss transits globally, and you mention and you drop hints a little bit about other realms, aliens, battles between entities and stuff. So if you can elaborate on this and tell us what you see heading down the pipeline, and you have the floor.
I'm totally grateful. When it comes to like aliens and frequencies and stuff like this, I too like to stay somewhat skeptical myself, just because I haven't necessarily been abducted by one or necessarily like gray or anything, but it's so fascinating just because the only thing that really helped me stay open about this is just key moments where other people kind of randomly share their insight or spit their wisdom or knowledge just in a way to kind of key me into like, oh, okay. And you kind of just when I'm ready to give up on the theory or the idea, it's almost as if I kind of see another out or clue, let's say, because I mean this isn't necessarily so much of a mystery, but it kind of makes me realize how each and every one of us have like a piece of the answer.
Yep.
Each and every one of us have an experience, and it's not until we like share our experiences that we realize, oh, okay, what I thought was just kind of normal was actually mirroring someone else's. So unfortunately, even that has not really that so far hasn't given me like concrete proof or whatnot, but it is still a very amazing journey to really walk on. So as far as like, aliens and frequencies, uh I would say over the past 7 years, I've gone from, yeah, they could be true. They definitely could be there. It's definitely possible for them to exist. And, we're in such a spacious universe. It would almost be weird if it was just us. In fact, um, I was just, uh, I had picked up a channel the other day where Spirit was like, oh, they're going to discover a new planet soon. They're going to discover a new planet soon. And yesterday I had seen scientists have already started like looking into this planet past Pluto that might have life on it. So, I mean, it's too soon to say. They might realize or find out something else. But it's just very exciting and awesome, of course, to really contemplate that there's life outside of us. But I really went from, vaguely believing in it to now I'm realizing, these are direct influences that influence us. It can't, I stopped seeing it as like, they have their world, we have our world to, this is a bit of real estate. We really are energy. We thrive on ecosystems and take I don't say rights because I'm not really a staunch vegan. I'm trying to work on my diet, but it really like we do this to animals, just kind of how they higher intelligent life form might populate and work on us. So kind of working backwards helped me ask the right questions. Asking the right questions led me to people with experiences of their own. And this is where, personally, for you, if you're skeptical about stuff like this, start asking the right questions, because when you start asking the right questions and having the right attitude, the answers will come to you. All the times when I've kind of ran into people who have given me extra clues, I never once spoke up to them about aliens. Once I kind of had the right questions and stuff like this will come up, they themselves would say key things that would highlight me into, wow, kind of confirming certain theories or ideas I had. For example, and that's another thing. When it does come to, when we do speak of our higher selves and we do speak of our higher energetic potential, I really do believe most of what I get doesn't even come from my higher self per se, but a community of higher beings, which we may call aliens. Maybe, you know, there could be another race or brand of extraterrestrials, but now I'm really feeling like, you know, a lot of the information that comes from this galactic place, or that we call higher selves, it could very easily be telepathically transmitted. For example, certain literature of, like, I remember, and I'm only saying this because I want you to personally feel about how this may happen to you before you physically see any kind of evidence, which I'm trying to really slowly paint the picture that when we do live this free will, predetermined hybrid, you know, open up more to the idea that some, you know, we could be Sims and these higher beings could be jacking into our consciousness.
Time out. What's a sim? Sorry. I have to ask.
So a sim is a simulation.
A sim. I thought you said a sim. I was like,
oh, no, it's cool. It's cool.
Sorry, I have to understand. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I get that. Yeah. Makes sense.
It's totally fine. And, you know, I just kind of started to be a lot more aware of keeping my own vibration and wondering what decisions are my decisions. Because once again, like, I didn't physically see an alien, and they tell me this, but you know, there's when you ask the right question, when you have the right attitude, you could subtly see what Orwell meant when he wrote his books. All right, when he predicted a lot of what's happened. And I really feel like a lot of why I can make this awareness is because of the progress and advancements of the old generation, who had even less resources. They didn't have social media, but they still had to deal with events like Roswell, and that made them question how much they could trust their government. If I was a high-ranking government official and entity, and I knew I had information about extraterrestrials for the safety of my country, because I know people can go crazy with news, I would not tell them. I mean, I think there's a bit of secrecy that is a little bit too much on the deep end. I think there's certain things that people need to know, but there's certain things that the people don't need to know until it's not time. So the whole notion of, you know, news being hidden from us, from the government, Julian Assange proved with WikiLeaks. The DNC got caught with Hillary Clinton. So this is stuff that happens, you know, daily. If they're going to hide stuff about that, you know, they don't have to have ridiculous conspiracies, even though chemtrail and geoengineering was proved as not a conspiracy theory. Certain things that over the past 10 years, we kind of thought were just conspiracy theories, they're coming out to light. So, I mean, I'm not saying this for those of you watching to believe in aliens, because we are going to have false flag alien attacks. So
that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think they're going to do that? Because I know you're up in the conspiracy thing. So, you know.
I feel like it'll happen around 2020, 2021, because this is where having skepticism is going to be helpful, where you can't just believe anything, because these same people can take advantage of the fact that you believe in something that you haven't really seen and then deceive you with that. So, you know, healthy skepticism is necessary while still trusting in the little that you may have been aware of. Because this is where, as a higher force, They're able to hide behind that Piscean veil. When we talk about the veil in astrology or spirituality, we talk about Pisces, we talk about Neptune, and what's next to Pisces? Aquarius. Aquarius represents this intergalactic knowledge. Aquarius is knowledge because it represents all the knowledge that is in every solar system, in every galaxy. So we also say Aquarius represents aliens. And every time you speak of Uranus, Neptune, Aquarius, Pisces, you have to think abstract because now you're speaking of a future that's outside space and time and that will incorporate beings like aliens who have technology that could take them outside space and time, that could activate their Merkaba, that, you know, came to the Aztecs or came to the ancient civilizations as hawks or snakes, which I did recently see that Leak Project episode about the hawk versus the snake, Enlil versus Enki. I thought that was genius. I thought it was really amazing. And thankfully, through the modern advent of technology, the reason why we will be able to prove the existence of these beings is all because of the past that we can now analyze with more accurate eyes and the stories and the facts and a lot of what's, you know, been shown us. But once again, to reiterate, like, I've really gone from entertaining they possibly exist to fully embracing that they're here, that they interact with us, and that they use and cultivate our energies for both good and bad, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. Just like we consume ecosystems, something higher will, but there's grave importance to them using invisibility cloaks with Neptune, the whole notion, because we're now waking up our spiritual awareness. We're now going to be aware of beings that have always been here. It's no different than humanity discovering a planet. It's not like the planet was never there until now. It was always there. When humanity discovers an illness or a psychological disease, it was always there. We just barely figured it out. So this is where modern advents will show us, oh, you know, new DNA structures. How could we tell who's a shape-shifting reptilian or who's an alien? Me, myself, once again, reptilians are something that I've not really seen, but I will entertain the theory because I do like to open up my mind to possibilities.
I think I can see it in charts. Don't you think you can see like who could possibly be this in charts?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone who has like Aquarius in their chart, they have alien contacts.
Yeah, agreed.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think like with the nodes, absolutely, like Rahu is definitely K2. Those are going to influence things. North node, south node. Don't you think and agree?
Absolutely.
And what do you think is gonna? So like a lot, my rods. You know, I just showed you the rods before we started, and a lot of people are saying that they think it's going to happen. This invasion, okay, is going to happen soon, like this year. My rods could have said the same thing. That's why. What makes you say 2020? And how do you think they're even going to pull that one off? Like, how would they do that?
Trump. And I'm so glad you said that, because honestly, what made me think 2020 was just me being modest. Like, it would make more sense that it would happen now. But Trump has Uranus on his sun, so this makes him not only a conduit. When you have Uranus on your sun, you can channel higher frequency beings. So I miss Leah. I don't want to say Trump because it's not like Trump is the mastermind.
I think he is.
As a leader, I don't want to call him a puppet either.
Yeah.
But he definitely, as a fellow Gemini that is settled by Uranus as well, there are frequencies that we could channel. So one thing about him, definitely, and one thing about any Gemini, like the person he's showing on TV, on social media, oh my gosh. And that's like with any president, right? But it's definitely, the reason why I say Trump will have to do it, that Trump has a vessel capable of being possessed or channeling these higher frequency beings without, like, you know, going crazy, or that's just debatable, but without, like, you know,
yeah,
without his body having adverse effects. So I don't know details, but I know him for sure is definitely part of it, because every time that you see in The Simpsons, I looked at the astrology of Simpsons, and even that episode that aired with Trump, it happened during Uranus and Aquarius. Like there was a very prominent Aquarius transit that happened, which that and Sagittarius deal with time travel. So there was some form of divination, but stuff like, it's interesting that you said this year might be, I could totally believe 2018, there will be some invasion. That makes so much, there was already that siding with SpaceX, which is probably like just, maybe.
Like they're prepping us for it now. They're going on the news and they're saying like, oh, here comes the UFOs. And before they prep, they always prep you with something, they're exposing it. And quite honestly, like even if it's not, I think personally, it's because so much stuff is getting called out. And if it gets to the point where it's so crazy, it's going to happen. Somebody's going to hit that switch and do it but I think it's just crazy how they could even pull something like that off,
No, it's totally true. And it's totally true. Geoengineering is real, HARP is real, and weather manipulation. So it all goes in part and parcel with it too. I totally agree. Like, once again, like I haven't seen these beings, but I think it's responsible, especially when I bring up conversation like this. What we're dealing with are intelligent beings that know we have smartphones, that know we're going to want to record things. And so the whole notion of being invisible, the whole notion of being invisible doesn't even have to be in a magical way, because they're CIA agents and spies that have been invisible. There are Russians that have been invisible to this Congress, and they weren't able to be detected. So if human beings can be invisible while still being in plain sight with no cloaks, think about intelligent beings. If we're going to think in reverse, if we're going to think that these are higher intelligent beings capable of altering their shape because of mastery over subatomic particles, making ships or vehicles invisible. Do we know this? But we have to at least entertain it as a possibility. So unfortunately, where just to protect myself, I will not make any concrete decision. I will not make any concrete conclusions based on what I don't know. But right. I open my mind to possibilities, because like you're saying, like when this false flag alien attack occurs, it's a large part of the success of it is going to have to do with people's disinformation about what they've been preparing us. They want us to believe aliens look a certain way, act a certain way, may be hostile or not. And a lot more about this is remembering it's misinformation. And one thing that I advise and encourage is to trust what your soul or inner spirit says, because your soul will know. It'll be like, something's off about this. Something seems a little bit iffy. Just like the attack on Vegas. I think that what I really appreciated about that was so many people off cuff question that.
Yeah, agree. So true.
Even people who aren't conventionally conspiracy theorists, they're like, hold on, like, what's up with this? Whereas back in 9/11, no one wanted, it was rare to have the because something like 9/11 happened. Now people are looking way closer at Sandy Hook, way closer at, you know what I'm saying, this Vegas shootings, which are even more scary because it's like it never happened. No one's talking about it anymore. It's like,
right. Seriously, it's crazy. And people actually did die. Like, it was an actor. Like, people literally, they're trying to sue. People are questioning it. I mean, I watched this one news channel called One American News Network, and it's kind of like off the cuff news, but they actually bring out a lot of different things that most people like don't really dig into, like all the shady things that go on too. And they bring up like that the FBI is just basically, they said it could take years to figure it out, the motive. What do you mean? I mean, apparently then I've heard the man did work at Northrop and Grumman, which is a huge government building by my house, like Northrop and Grumman. That's big over in Maryland. I live by the NSA too. So there's all this stuff that just didn't add up. How could one guy do that? And, I mean, there's just too many weird things.
Too much, which lets you know that the plan itself was hastily put together.
Yeah.
But I mean, they took advantage of how gullible the American public is, because no one's doing anything about it.
I know.
No
It's
one
sad.
can. And this is where we get into Capricorn work. Capricorn as the system is so powerful and elite. It has every single resource that you can think of. So you can come up with the original idea at Aries, you know, and perfect it at Virgo. But what you lack that the system has are top elite officials, all the money in the world, even when they have debt. And like, so they could do whatever at the, like if they wanted to try and find, you know, I mean, they have budgets for whatever that they don't even tell us. So, you know, it's very fascinating once again, because the unlikely is, I think what's going to trigger this false flag is the unlikely is going to happen, and humanity will evolve and awaken greater ability to see through the BS, especially with technology that will also show us that will be made by independent people that won't be regulated by the government. That's what we're headed into with Uranus and Taurus. Now that Saturn and Capricorn, now we have independent developers, geniuses, even in Russia, even in North Korea, that are working to make weapons outside of the jurisdiction of the US. You're going to have people all over the world invent things that are not regulated by the government, and therefore don't have to be altered in any way. And that's going to change things. You're going to see what I kind of see this as is, if Nikola Tesla was allowed to go forward with his AC current theory without it getting squashed by corporations, you're going to see the greatest war between corporations and independent inventors, where the independent inventors are able to monopolize a lot of these consumers to the horror of these corporations.
That just gave me chills. It really did. Like, I feel like that's so, and even with Bitcoin, think about that. Mm-hmm. That's a great example. Net
neutrality happened as soon as Bitcoin started coming up. And it's always money. A great Leo friend of mine said, whenever you see any controversy, look to the money. What's happening with the money? And I wouldn't be surprised when this, because it's already starting to happen. You're starting to see people kind of like create these things. And then you're also starting to see, and even in the form of music, independent artists, you know what I mean? Like, they don't need labels to get, you know what I mean? If I mean, the label will still hit you with money that is hard to refuse, but if you choose to stay independent, you can still be successful, to their horror. If I made the greatest invention of all time, I don't need a patent. I don't need Shark Tank. I can build a
yeah.
And slowly over time build my brand, and I can monopolize something I invented. So this is where, when this happens in mass, false flag alien attacks to kind of confuse us, and now, oh, we need to stay protected by the government. Something like that can and will backfire because of people like you, Heidi, because of people who, like the Leak Project, who open people's minds to this. Because right now, people are going to be more closed. They want that security and comfort, but everyone is going to continue to have experiences that make them wonder and make them question. And slowly but surely, they'll be directly led to people like you, to videos like this that will tell them the truth, only because, like me, who was skeptical and didn't want to believe it, I see somebody else verbatim talking about an experience I did not tell anybody. Now I have to listen to it, because and it's only coming from speaking out. You know, this is why I'm saying, that's why I had to start off with, I don't really have proof of this. And this is where secret societies, this is where people who operate in shadows gain their power, because they track their movements. But unfortunately, people who speak out, people who have guidance, just like there might be negative angels, demons, just like there might be negative politicians, and evil aliens, you have good extraterrestrials, good politicians, oh, that's funny, or good angels and demons, you know what I mean? Like good people and structures who want to help the people, because it's not just so polarized by black and white, it's black and white versus black and white, you know what I mean? Like who ultimately is work, I don't even want to say fighting, but yeah, you know, these are just some possibilities. I'm really glad you mentioned that it may already happen now. And the purpose of the false flag alien tech is solely for information, solely to gain, because especially if this is happening around now, right now there are a majority of people who have awakened supernatural power. I mean, even if we look at your rods, that is powerful. I mean, just to be able to develop answers like this is going to utilize certain energy. Because I feel like when it comes to rods like that, not anyone can use them. I feel like if someone's energy is off, it won't give them accurate answers.
It won't. It's very true. It won't, because I've heard some people say they don't work on them, and they wouldn't answer me until you have to be nice to them. They slept in my bed. I'm not joking, on my pillow they do every night. Like, it sounds so stupid, but like, it's like they're there, they're communicating. So if I leave them somewhere weird or something, they're like a little person. I say it's like Wilson, that movie, with Tom Hanks and the volleyball. It's like I have this relationship with them now like that. So, but it is crazy. And you're making such good points here, because you always bring up like the entities. And I'm so skeptical of all this, like so many things. I like the charts. I like the facts. I like, I've actually blocked off so much of my intuition when I was younger, because it used to scare me. So, and I heard you say you came from a religious background. So did I. Christian schools. So, and I wanted to be like that. That was me. Like I used to write Heidi loves Jesus on the walls. Okay. And glow in the dark paint. And I used to cry because I couldn't speak in tongues. And this is like, it was crazy. And that's how, and then I found this, and I never heard astrology was bad. So I was just like, how does this person know about me? And that's kind of how I got so obsessed with it. And then I just asked everybody what time they were born. But there is so much facts. Like, I always say, even if we are living in this weird matrix, like everybody says, they're still following astrology and using it as like a secret code to talk to each other. Whoever's in control, like whoever is running the ship.
And that's The Men Who Stare at Goats. When I saw that movie, I think that this was with George Clooney, and it was like not even too long ago. I think it was like early 2010 or 11. And it was literally about when the government funded psychonauts. Like the government, it was talking about the government project that now doesn't exist, but I don't believe that. But it's like they had hired people to do psychic stuff. Like, okay, stare at this goat until you make it fall down with your telekinesis, and do remote viewing. And that there are super soldiers that are being built. This is ever since the days of Hitler, which were not really that far back. Like every country has their own unique super soldier, super psychic. I would not be surprised if they had a band of remote viewers who could like use their powers to see what another country's doing. And they can't make it public, because if you were to say, oh, we know that this bomb is here because of a remote viewer, that's not really like official. So, even me as an astrologer, like there are people who hire my services that they don't want anyone else to know. If that could happen at this low level, you can only imagine. And
right.
I do agree, like something is, I mean, even one of, I forgot exactly who, but there was a first lady who employed the work of astrologers, which may not necessarily seem as important, but if she did, who was to know who she gave that advice to? Because I know that astrologer was somewhat accurate. But regardless, one thing that I recently channeled that has heavy significance, and now this is why I really respect the Leap Project for not necessarily like keeping it just at extraterrestrials. They're bringing in the entomology of Enlil and Ankiel, Poseidon and Zeus, because this still very much so is a spiritual war than anything. I feel like the extraterrestrials are just higher advanced beings that may not always look like one alien species. When people say the aliens, the Greys, I'm still skeptical about all of that. I just know they exist. When it comes to spirits. I just know they exist. Whether what they're called is real or not, that's really all semantics to me. But you have negative vibrations, impurities, psychological evil spirits that manifest in human beings when a human is possessed as psychological defects, uncharacteristic behavior. Every soul and human in their heart carries love and life. When this love is distorted from depression, anger, and you constantly condition yourself to open these negative portals, you invite these beings to come in and have home in your heart, versus when you're happy, when you're vibrant and positive, you invite positive beings to influence you. So these negative spirits, back when Zeus and Poseidon and these more archetypal energies were of bigger predominance here, they didn't have the luxury of possessing. I don't even think the human project or human beings were I personally believe, once again, like there was a time when humans were directly with these more mythological beings, and then there was a veil in place, so where it was just us, and a lot more of our imagination could not really manifest. More of a theory. I'm sure that may change when I get more information, but the whole notion of these entities, the whole notion of these spirits, which is why it's better to have discernment and to just be skeptical than outright believe, because what these spirits will do, they'll come as familiar spirits. They'll go to mediums and say, oh, I'm your dead uncle, but they're not. I'm Archangel Gabriel, but they're just a demon.
Yeah.
So how can you tell what's what? It'd be way healthier to be skeptical than to just really outright believe. Because just because an alien comes down and says they're a Palladium, they could be deceiving you. I mean, there's ways of discernment. Trusting your soul will definitely help. But I didn't realize a lot of negative alien activity is really these extraterrestrials teaming together with negative spirits. Just like you have positive spirits working with certain higher beings, like ascended masters, or as we call them, or ETs, to help warn humanity about stuff, or to help guide humanity along the way. And I'm really grateful that you had already confirmed that there'll be something here. If that's the case, I feel like we may have already had several invasions, which will be also interesting to look into when the last one was. But one thing that we may be not looking at, I think we need to look at this whole mechanics of invasion reverse. I think we're looking to see something from the sky when all this geoengineering and programming, many of us could already be possessed with this energy. I think instead of looking for something physical, we need to look for something vibrational, because one of the whole purposes, and this is more channeled information, one of the whole purposes of this spiritual war is to rid humans of free will, rid animals of free will. Not that animals have any more free will than humans, but if you rid humans of free will, and if you rid them the ability to have their own consciousness, they're willing bodysuits that are ready to be possessed. Robots can also be possessed by spirits as well. So you are having, more depression being circulated in our news and media, which is not just solely for depression, because you also have to feed and create programs that are positive and uplift, and program one to hope for a certain outcome. Not to say that every television program is bad. There's some, good ones that are written independently by some people too, which is very interesting. To go off on a tangent, I would pay very close attention to independently made TV shows or movies that don't come through Hollywood, and see the difference, because this is another thing. They're going to compete against the mainstream media. This is where this new age is coming into effect, because the new mainstream is going to be the people. And we're going to reach that renaissance sooner than expected. And false flag alien invasion may help, because the whole notion of this is very risky on their part too, and I'll explain why. So once again, we may want to look reversed, where it may be more like a zombie apocalypse, a demon possession, and an alien invasion at the same time, where because our hearts are opening with this there's a collective shift over the next 6 years that's occurring, but very intensely over the next 6 months to 2 years with the Saturn and Capricorn. And in this collective shift, everyone's hearts are going to open, everyone's minds are going to be more open to what they channel and experience. Everyone's psychic, everyone to varying degrees is magic, but people either super suppress that talent or they embody it and they develop it. So this collective shift is going to force everyone to evolve because something is happening that's opening all our hearts. And as a consequence, the energies that have been stoking in our hearts are going to manifest. That's why if you've been doing the spiritual work and if you've been working on your demons, if you've been working on your negative energy, when this now comes out more powerfully, it's not going to control you. And the fruit that you have spent working on will finally show itself. Whereas if you've been a piece of crap or a POS and you've been dealing and cultivating and feeding these negative entities, it's going to come out and you're going to see so many people. It's already starting now. The reason why people are slowly going more crazy, the reason why people are slowly becoming more uncharacteristic is because of the lack of spiritual work, which is tough. It's very difficult to really every night work on yourself and like deal with stuff that's hard to tell anyone else. The people who haven't been doing that, it's showing. The symptoms are coming through. It's having people flip. So, right now, people like us are not going to be in the minority any longer, because what's going to happen is, in another, especially with this first flag, this false flag attack, people are going to have that encounter where it's like, holy shit, this is a lot more true than we thought. What do we do? And you'll see your views spike up because now people are wanting answers. And this is where it's like, okay, it's not that we know any too much more, but we've been preparing ourselves for this. And we now know, and now this is where people are going to open up about their experiences and we're going to come into a lot more answers, which is why something like this could be risky and backfire against them, because something like a false flag attack could inadvertently bring unity when it was meant to bring division. But there's going to be a lot of people who have been possessed by demons that react to this energy. And it's really more, and this is what will give the Walking Dead feeling, because it's like their souls won't be theirs anymore. And there's going to be a lot of people have this alien frequencies in them where it may not even be a physical entity, but they just beam a frequency to control someone's mind. If you can control someone's mental frequency, you control them. So that's how, like, from the inside, the spirits will have your soul. And then from up above, the aliens could beam a frequency for you to tune into, which those people who meditate, work on their soul, know their frequency, when they start hearing these thoughts, when these experiments from MK Ultra have now manifested themselves in more global mind control, you won't be affected because you know your soul vibration, you know what's your thoughts, you know what's your feelings. I'm giving you an extreme example though, because
that's what I want to hear. And I feel for sure, I always say, like, I'm not MK Ultra. And if I was, I'm not, I've blocked it. Like, there's no getting into my head. And I do believe that. Like, I feel like once you're aware of it, but I didn't even know what the hell it was a year ago. I mean, I didn't even know what MK Ultra was. My whole views have changed. And, like, there's so many things that I'm opened up to that most people would probably say, what, has Heidi lost her damn mind? Because that's what the population, but they question it, obviously. And like going on the Leak Project was a huge thing for me. That's how all of this started. And the people there, it's harsh. Like, I go on there and take jabs, punches, beatings, like, because people are like, astrology, it's for the devil. And but there's so many people that are truth seekers. That's where I found them, because I was on a conspiracy channel thinking the world was going to end. And they just want the truth, because there's so many people that are out there that just need to know, I think, these kind of things and be aware of it. And know how astrology and all these mystical things can really help you just understand yourself. Do you believe that, like, once you know yourself, that's kind of how, that's how you can solve things?
That's 100%. This is why Bill Nye the Science Guy is getting paid to tell people astrology is bullshit, because astrology is the number one tool. so far, I mean, even human design and galactic code, they're based from astrology, new systems or systems that apparently they use. I want to look more at galactic code because that looks really interesting. But I mean, astrology is the #1 tool, not a religion, not some kind of like, you have to follow this or that. It's a legit science. And the interpretation of astrology is an art. Actual astrology is a science, and when you interpret it natively, it's an art. And nothing really helps you understand yourself through this, in some cases, subjective interpretation, but will be objective through shared experience, like astrology. So, I mean, this is one, and that's one thing that I love about it. Like, I don't have to like spend hours proving it. I can
Yeah.
yeah. Chart and have them like,
yeah.
So inevitably, you're going to see the rise of people acting like they've been astrologers their whole life. Right? That you're going to see that wave of people acting like they've been truthers their whole life. And this is going to be more of the disinformation where you'll start to see this overly saturated. But the whole notion of like truth seeking is where you go past Saturn and you go past Capricorn, conventional established knowledge, and you start to venture into Uranus and Neptune that will make you go crazy, because in order for you to get the truth, you have to forget what you know. And when you forget what you know, this will now start to challenge what you already know, and it will produce a sort of crazy feeling. And this is where I will have more respect for a flat earther than someone who believes the earth is round but doesn't do any research. Because the whole notion of this truther wave, believe it or not, is not to find the truth, it's to ask the right questions. The whole notion of coming up with incorrect theories is totally fine because you're being lied to. Because what we've been taught isn't true, the whole notion that we will have to go off of limited knowledge and come up with theories, that's totally fine. If everything presented to us was the truth and fact, we wouldn't have this issue. So now we have to make it. I don't believe the world is flat, by the way. I never seen the planet, so you know. I respect it so much because flat earthers are forcing people to ask the right questions, and that's the purpose. The purpose is to make sure whatever you know, you really know. And whenever you're a truther, you're holding yourself to an integrity to where you make sure what you know is really the truth and not just because you were told it. And this is where you still also have to be, discerning, and you can't just believe, like, I can't just believe that, oh, like everything I'm telling you about spirits and aliens, I'm actively working to case study and test so that once I prove it, you know what I mean? But we won't have to prove this. It's gonna show us. It's gonna prove itself. And once again, a lot of this is already in front of our faces. And there will be people like you who have that flash insight, because just like these people operating are not God. So these people are having to fight against counter imposing, like yin and yang, that will reveal some of this to us. And I'm sure in their case, it doesn't matter, right? But I don't necessarily put this up too much as like the evil monolith versus the defenseless public. We definitely have power in this. The more we take back our awareness and the more we take back, which will happen inevitably. It's just when that happens, where will we take it? And that's the real question. And so far, given that we have successfully been divided by race, division, and class, race, religion, and class, it's not going to be so easy when people will now start to argue there's demons and evil spirit, or no, it's an alien, when that's not the point. It's not. We don't need the facts. We need to get together based on what we know. How are we going to, as a people, combat this or deal with such? And I think the good part of a false flag alien invasion is it will force people to remember we're all together. It's nothing like that split second where the whole world wants to know, are the aliens peaceful against us? Like the world isn't going to be like, are they peaceful against the Americans and the Czechs and the whole world as a populace before they now get in their ego and forget that we're connected and divide each other again. So it's a whole lot of good and bad that will come from this. But I really do want to remind people that the more you work on the inside, before these extraterrestrial frequencies can can control your mind, they have to work with a negative spirit to control your soul. Because once on the inside you don't feel confident, anyone can tell you whatever. So I definitely have channeled. It's an inside job. It's not just extraterrestrials. We have to once again open up to entities and unseen subatomic particles, that manifest as subatomic particles, or just frequencies that are negative that can be easily combated with your awareness and positivity. Once again, I'm only giving you an extreme example. If we're going to look at this more realistically, this is already probably happening on a very subtle level, to where the government, and let me not just blame the government, but those who are utilizing this have already tested our response on how they can control our minds due to advertising success, how well they control consumer spending and opinion, which, I mean, I've taken communication classes that go into how much money corporations spend just to advertise subliminal messaging. I have taken a brand management class. So in this class in college, like, I had to go through, what does it take for a brand to actually stick in someone's head? You have to show someone a commercial 7 times, because at that 7th time, they'll feel that much more. So just and this is just at a basic psychological level. I invite you to imagine and let your imagination go wild. How much more advanced do they use these techniques in spiritual ways, in ways that incorporate the occult, in ways that incorporate the very unique ways the DC Capitol was built, and how it took into account certain structures like the obelisk and positioned it perfectly so that it could take advantage of energy centers that connect to, the higher places. So yeah, very grateful. I feel like the most important part of this is opening up. And once again, like, even if you don't have the facts, do your own research. I feel like eventually the flat earther will realize maybe the earth wasn't flat, but they asked the right questions, and they didn't just believe that the earth was round because they read it in the book. This should encourage everyone, whether you believe the earth is flat or round, try and find more real ways to figure out what you know, how you know, because you never know what could be a lie, what could be just misinformation or an honest mistake.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the more you're open to and the more you're aware of, then when something does happen, it's not oh my God, this world's like, you don't lose your marbles, because when the alien invasion happens, I'm going to be like, oh, there it is, and laugh and be like, take me away and see what they say. I mean, because what's really going to happen, but I'm going to say one thing about that. What is a little concerning, I've heard a lot that there's UN troops all over the US. There's like multiple facts that's the case. Like there's UN trucks apparently everywhere. And I mean, that's kind of strange, and I even asked some military people that I've sold homes to. They're like, there's no way there's UN trucks, but then there's a lot of people that say there are. So I think something's definitely could happen. They're prepared, but it is what it is. As long as you just keep on trucking with your life, I think that's very important to do.
I would definitely, I'm just concerned about learning like field survival skills. So if I can go to any training courses that could teach, I have a book, How to Survive Off the Grid, just in case there is some kind of event that makes it so that we have to go into these camps, I would opt to not go and just like try and live off the land. Anyone who can live off the land, a lot of these indigenous tribes that had no choice but to live off the land before integrated systems took away that right, they're going to survive. I mean, regardless of those in camps, and I don't want to put it like that, but it's just important. It's just, you know, should that ever be a case, they're definitely going to be greater of advantage because they know how to survive off of the crops. They know how to actually, you know, camp out and create certain things. I personally am not in a position yet to trust UN or FEMA camps. Should it get to that, thankfully it's to a degree where if you were to mention it, people will just laugh at you like, oh,
right.
it actually helps more than hurts because now you can hold them to that, right? But regardless, it's stuff like this kind of also makes it very important to, you know, develop real world skills.
Yeah.
I say this to myself as well because like if this were to happen today, like I don't think I would know how to like kill a deer, abstract the right fruit from a plant and live off of that. So
I think I'd rather just go to the next world. That's me. I always say, like, for me, I know I'm going to a better place. So I think the last thing I want to do is sit around here and watch people suffer. You know, I mean, that's how I am. But I think that, you know, I want to tell you two things and then I'll let you go. But one, you said about the government using astrology and stuff, and you'll get a kick out of this because of your signs. But I sold a home. Actually, no, when I was doing mortgages at this time, I had somebody's W-2s and it was Homeland Security, top secret clearance. The company he worked for was called CAP, C-A-P, Gemini. And then I Googled it out of Germany and and it was top Homeland Security. So isn't that funny? And I just think like that there's clues right there. And if everybody knew astrology worked, everybody would be successful. Like everybody, right? If everybody took astrology to the best benefit, don't you think that and agree with that?
That's one of my destinies. And first of all, like they'll try and if you were to mention that, they could easily just be like, oh, well, we don't mean Gemini, the zodiac sign. We mean Gemini, the constellation. So
Yeah.
they like to hide behind astronomy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or that's just all they recognize. But I do agree. It a lot of it is in plain sight. And then, of course, like, oh, damn. Well, what did you just ask?
If everybody knew astrology, don't you think that like everybody would be very successful? Then there would be no control because if everybody knew to use transits for making money for everything too, like everybody would be rich.
And that's where we're headed to, thankfully. And that's where what's going to happen is people like you, people like me, they're going to be socialites. The people who influence public opinion are these celebrities. That's why they go to the celebrities first and they give them endorsements and they shackle them down in certain agreements. If you see anybody who's independent and says no shortly after, a media scandal happens to tarnish their image. It's very much so is a war that doesn't even, there's social wars that occur. So, you know, when you do have these popular actors, movie stars, models start to co-sign astrology a lot more, which they're already been using it. Once they start to make it popular, then you're going to see a lot of people acting like they've been in this forever. But it is what it is because, once again, when I said this is my destiny, like I have North Node in Aquarius in the ninth house, and I see that as like being able to provide structural change in the education system to where you have to learn astrology in grade school. Like once you take your SAT, you're going to have questions about astrology there. It has to, this has to be is integrated in the school system at just the basic level, just so that people can know how to read it in their chart, how to interpret transits. And it's just as you said, if people know how to do just that, which won't take long because there have been case studies by people like John who will look over 100,000 people at someone's MC and be able to tell unique similarities. So this could even be proven. But this is what I'm saying. When you start to see this, you're going to see backlash. You're now going to start to see the scientific community and people openly go to war with this. And this is where you're going to see people's true colors rise. It's not that the humanity cannot accept astrology. They will really quit. If anything, humanity loves to eat up trends. It's the war you're going to see to people to make you feel like it's fake, because that's the last stand. Once astrology is mainstream and everyone recognizes it as a science, a lot of people are going to lose money. A lot of people will not go to medical practitioners. You'll see a lot more holistic doctors getting paid. Big Pharma does not want that. You're going to see a whole lot of scientific theories get squashed into the mud. There's a lot of people who are fighting against that because they have a knowledge of astrology, but then they also don't want this knowledge to be popular. And that's how it's always been before, where astrology is something only nobles can do. The illiterate had no access to this. The illiterate had to have access to Christianity because people couldn't read Bibles, so they just had to go off what they hear, whereas they kept the astrology for the nobles. And then they outright ripped that out just so that would be even a cult. And it wasn't until recently that they added into the Bible that you weren't supposed to do divination. That was never always in the canon. After the Council of Nicaea and Constantinople wanting to syncretize Christianity, So I 100% agree. That's my basic mission right now. The reason why I do this YouTube channel is let me teach you how to do astrology without even paying me. I will show you what this sign and this planet means. I will at least show you that this is real in your life. So by the time you finish watching this whole YouTube channel, you know how to read charts.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, I've learned so much too because I do Vedic astrology, which is it's a sign behind, and you know about it. And you know why I do a Vedic astrology? Because I feel like they wouldn't give us the right astrology if they're using it. Like, why would they give us the right exact calculation? So I go with my gut on that. But I still look at the Western astrology for transits. Like, I still look at it for transits and the outer planets. But you are so good at giving examples and describing. So everybody, I'll pin your channel and everything in the comments, but make sure you're subscribed, because Mike explains things in a very creative way that really makes you think. And then when he does that, you can really relate it to so many other things. Like, you're not just like, oh, the sun means this. It's a definitely more way to get your mind thinking. And you've definitely helped me just look at different patterns and different things in so many different ways, especially with outer planets too, because that's one thing Vedic astrology is missing. And I always try to put it in there. And because I have Uranus in the first house, so I'm trying to embrace it.
I love that placement, by the way. Most of the coolest people I know have that. They get accused of being crazy, but I think electric.
Yeah. Oh, I do get electrocuted too. So that's for sure. Yeah, so I have I think it definitely has its perks and its downfalls, because you're definitely like an oddball. It's kind of like having the nodes, I think, in your first and seventh house, so it's just, I don't know. But anything else, Mike, do you have for us, or any guidance to give us for 2018 with the new alien missions coming in?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 2018 is going to be so
what do you think? Give us like a couple predictions. What do you think?
Okay, so 2018, we're going to start to see right off the bat amazing inventions, especially closer to May. I think the first part of 2018 is going to come with great development. We have this fascination of saying the last year was horrible, the next year is going to be amazing. And I think 2018 is going to hold off on that promise, to where, because of Saturn and Capricorn, a lot of people are more serious about accomplishing whatnot. But, I think the last half of 2018 and even some of the beginning, we're now going to see definite signs that we're headed into war. We're going to see, I think the false flag attack might happen closer to June, but the reason why it's important is because it's going to happen in very random and crazy like fashion that's all orchestrated and controlled But the reason why it's important to know that all of this is just going to happen is because ever since 2014, 2015, it's been set in place. And a lot of these isolated incidents actually tied together. So when what happens in 2018, which will be the beginning of a new 6-year transitive, really keying more intensely into this universal global drama, it's going to incorporate once again stuff that happened back in 82, 83, where we had Saturn and Pluto and Libra. You know, a lot of these wars that we see, that the news media will make it look like it's new, just like the media made it look like Ophiuchus was a new barely discovered constellation when they've been having bullshit articles like that in 91. This is what will incorporate stuff that has been in motion. So to us, it's going to look like, oh my gosh, all this crazy stuff is erupting. Crazy. There's going to be key inventions in 2018 near the beginning that now open up our eyes through whether virtual reality or just wearing the glasses that can show you carbon atoms. And then through being able to see atoms, because they're like special glasses that instead of having a microscope, they're just in a lens that you can like change how deeply you look. This invention, which was not meant for finding spirits, maybe you can prove spirits. This is an example, but like I think the inventive genius that will initially come through will be a key feature of 2018, and then the mental health issues of cyber stalking, but more importantly, interpersonal development, the way people deal with each other psychologically. We're going to have amazing psychological advancements to help us understand why people think in certain ways that, once again, incorporated 6 years worth of research that we're now finally able to come through. So there's a lot of great things that are going to happen, which is why I think we're going to need certain false flag attacks, and I think 2019 may be more close to where this war that will erupt, probably to do with Russia and North Korea, will come through. I don't think it's a war that we'll have to really worry about. I think it's a war that'll be more hyped up in news, unless you are in like a third world country that they'll be fighting the battle over. You'll probably be screwed, but this is what has always happened in the world. It's not so much the war, it's how the people are going to react to this. I feel this is where we're going to see more people take a stand because of the incongruities, because like I said, a lot of this is taking into account stuff that has put into preparation for years. You're going to see a lot of older people who were children during these times open up about, that's not true, there's something off about this. And I feel 2019 is where, even though a lot may erupt out of control, this chaos is going to bring unexpectedly some kind of unity where people start to really see something not right. I don't think everyone's going to unanimously accept it. I think you're going to have people start to entertain it and still be skeptical, but more glitches in the major, and a huge key feature of this is the evolution of human and animal experience, where people have to really trust and believe that they're alive, and you know how they use these powers and how they trust other influences will greatly key into that. But I'm excited for 2018. I think it'll show us what we're made of.
I think we're probably going to get real busy, because I think the more people that awaken and get concerned and confused, the best thing for them to do. I mean, I think personally, astrology readings, tarot readings, numerology readings, any way, any tool, anything you can do to just give you answers is just something that, you know, saves the day.
It's the new currency in this new age, truth and information. So
yeah,
you're going to have people who, for the first time ever in their life, they finally believe in ghosts because they have an encounter that they can't make sense of. They're going to go to a psychic. There's so many that'll finally, it won't be till 2020 where it's like, okay, I'm 2 years into this, I can embrace it. But a lot of the awakenings we've had back like 6 years ago, the majority of the world is going to have now. And it's going to make more people vulnerable. And in that state of vulnerability, the powers will strike. And in that state of confusion, try and get people to believe other stuff. But, you know, the good forces that be have a trump card too. And because they operate in private, the good forces have to operate in private so that it's more of a surprise. And that's one good thing. Even though there are these bad things that do seem to happen, there are good developments that will counteract that. And now it will kind of neutralize things to where it will really come down to who exercises their free will versus who gives their power away for fame, fortune, or love. You know.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on, though.
Yes, thank you. And I'm gonna hit the end and sign off, but just I want to say bye real quick, okay? So 1 sec. But thank you everybody who watched. There were a lot of people, so make sure you subscribe to Mike's channel. It's the Peace Dealer, and also Mystic Illuminations. Do you go by that still? Do you use that, or is it just the peacedealer.com?
The peace.
Okay, so thepeacedealer.com to get readings. He's phenomenal. Watches lives on the weekdays. I don't think I miss any of them. So definitely tune into him and subscribe to his channel, please. And thank you for watching.